Hi there, I'm Dark Shades and I am hailing from the east of England. Welcome to my channel. Um, Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your comments. I don't get to respond to all my comments, but please forgive me. I will eventually. It's just that I'm having to really prioritize and I'm getting so many. So don't think I'm ignoring you. It's just that I can't always comment. And sometimes I just hope that somebody else will do it for me, to be honest. But thank you so much for involving yourself and giving me feedback. Anyway, I wanted to talk about fathers today. And what prompted me to talk about this was I was listening to a video by Tony Bless. And Tony Bless was saying that Kamala Harris, who's the vice president of the United States, one of the, I think is the highest office a woman can hold in the United States. She's of Jamaican background. Anyway, apparently she's been getting some stick because she hasn't acknowledged her father. And apparently, according to Tony Bless, he left her at the age of 5. And I don't know if he's now trying to come onto the scene, but he's supposed to be a professor. He's very well known. He's intelligent. He's got all the credentials. But from the age of 5, she hasn't seen him. So when she was doing her opening address, apparently she didn't mention her father. So a lot of people were making a hoo-ha out of it. Why isn't she mentioning her father? Now, the thing is that how important, whether it's your father or your mother, you talk about who has been instrumental in your life, who has been important, who has been there for you. Just because you have parents, it doesn't mean that they have been there for you, that they've been your soul of inspiration, that they are the cause of why you are where you are. So many parents live vicariously through their children. And when their children become famous, all of a sudden, they all jump on the bandwagon. We see that in X Factor, Britain's Got Talent. Some of these children, they go on there, they've never seen their fathers, but all of a sudden they've seen their father sees them on TV, and all of a sudden they want to be involved. It doesn't work like that. But also we have to bear in mind why they have not been involved in their children's lives. Sometimes it's not the father's fault. Now, I like to use my own experiences when I talk about these kind of situations because it helps me to empathize and look at both sides of the coin. Now, my mother was really disappointed when she found out that my father was married when she got pregnant. And she was in the church and she was so embarrassed and so ashamed. She decided to leave Jamaica and come to the UK. She didn't tell my father she was leaving. She didn't even tell her parents. She didn't tell anyone. Well, she told her parents that she was leaving Jamaica, but she didn't say the reason why, because she didn't want to disappoint them. So she came to the UK, pregnant on her own, resenting my father for making her, well, he didn't make her make that decision, but she had so much pride and she wanted to keep her reputation. She didn't want anything to tarnish it. And being unwed back in the day was embarrassing. And to think she had been beguiled by my father, fell for his charms like so many other women. I've got 13 brothers and sisters who I have been in touch with and who are wonderful, and I'm glad I'm a part of a larger family. But the fact of the matter remains is that my mother decided to come to the UK. What did that mean? That meant because she didn't tell my father, he didn't know where I was or who I was or anything about me. And she kept that a secret. And she married my stepfather, and I grew up believing he was my father. But you know something? There's something instinctual in all of us. And I somehow knew that that could not be my father. I didn't have no reason not to, any reason to question it, because he was the only man that I knew growing up. I hadn't seen any other men. You know, I was raised in a foster home, and when I went to live with my mother, this was the man, he was my father. I accepted him as my father, but my instincts told me that he wasn't. And especially when I got married and he was struggling to write with the register, and I kind of envisaged my father being handsome, eloquent, distinguished, sophisticated. I don't know why, but that's how I imagined my father to be. But my stepfather, even though I didn't know it then, wasn't like that. In fact, he was the opposite to what I had imagined. But I didn't question it. Anyway, I should have said before I got married. Because before I got married, I got pregnant. And my mother was upset because it reminded her of her situation, not being married and having a baby. And I guess that is why she wanted me to get married to my baby's father. So at that point, she told me why she was so upset. That she got pregnant and she left Jamaica and blah, blah, blah. So that made me think, so who's my father? Where is my father? Oh, he's in Jamaica, she said. And she gave me an address. And I said, well, I want to get in touch with him. How do I get in touch with him? And so I'm kind of going back to front. But she gave me his address and I started writing to him and he responded. And when I was about 23, I went to Jamaica to meet him. And he was exactly how I envisaged him. Yes, I know police officers have a bad reputation with the women in Jamaica. He was a police officer and he was tall and he was handsome. He had blue eyes and he wasn't a white Jamaican, but he was a very, very fair Jamaican. And he was very distinguished and strict and severe and he commanded respect. He was that type of person. And he was very eloquent and his writing was beautiful. And when he saw me and he said, yes, Nana, I've been wanting to meet you for a very long time. I've been trying to get hold of you. And all I could think of is that, yes, this is my father. And yes, we stayed in contact until the day he died. I ended up living in America for a while, so I got acquainted with him. I got acquainted with my extended family, all my brothers and sisters. But my point is that he was not involved in my life through no fault of his own. All of my brothers and sisters, even though some of them are from different mothers, he was involved in their lives. Maybe not as much as they might have liked, but he was involved. And they all held him in high respect. So all I'm saying is that sometimes we do not know the reason why fathers aren't involved in their children's lives. We've got some women who, like my mother, was so angry and bitter. She just didn't want my father to have anything to do with me. She wanted to have a new life of respectability and she didn't want to have that kind of past tarnish her. Sometimes we have people who get who break up with their father, break up with the father of their children, and they become spiteful. I'm not saying that this happened in the case of Kamala Harris. I don't know the reason why she wasn't in touch with her father or why her father didn't get in touch with her. I haven't got a clue. I don't think it matters. It doesn't take anything away from the point that, yes, there are some men who choose wisely. And they choose women of their children who, regardless of whether they break up, they still want to maintain they still want the father to maintain contact with the children for the stability of the child. And yet you have those who are quite, I don't know if it's selfish or what you want to call it. I don't think they realise the importance of the involvement of the father and they prevent the father's involvement in the child. Sometimes they think the father is going to be a bad influence. Who knows what they think? But the fact of the matter is that sometimes it's not the father's fault why the father isn't involved in the upbringing of the child. Many, many fathers would love to be involved with their children. And for some reason or the other, the mothers do not allow it, or the mothers, especially if you have abusive fathers, fathers who beat up the mother. That's a terrible situation to be in, because you sometimes some fathers want to use the children to get at the mothers, and you'll find a lot of fathers do that. So some good fathers get punished for the bad fathers, and and sometimes it's spite, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's selfishness, sometimes it's bitterness, sometimes it's revenge. But whatever it is, there's a multitude of reasons why fathers are not involved in the upbringing of the children, and especially black fathers. And so when you see some black fathers gloating, oh, I've been involved with my children, I've raised my children, oh, even though the mother and I broke up, well, I'm still in my children's life. And it can make the fathers who may have been trying to get in touch with their children, it can make them feel embarrassed, or that they haven't been good enough, or what are their children thinking? What do their children want to do, about it? And sometimes the children hold it up against the father and say, you could have tried. You could have tried to get in touch with me. But sometimes it's not that simple. And all I'm saying is, I'm just trying to look at both sides of the story. There are numerous reasons why some fathers do not. Sometimes, like I said, you have whatless dads, but you also have dads who would love to be involved with their child, but for one reason or another, they don't have the ability or the wherewithal, or it's too much of a hassle, or it's too much of a struggle. But all I can say to fathers who are unable, but who want to, these are ones who want to see their children, but who have been prevented or unable in some way, get your telephone number to your child. That's all you can do. Sometimes when I've been separated from some members of my family, just through bickers or, whatever it is, and, sometimes you don't get to see who you would like to see, I always leave a phone number and say, look, you can call me whenever, just call me. Here's my number. Because sometimes people do not have control over their circumstances until they reach a certain age. Once they're over 18, they can do what they like. And so you have to wait. But between the time they're a child and 18, sometimes that child has built up a picture in his mind that could be based on a false foundation. And sometimes they think that the father, and when they think about, oh, if it was me, a lot of parents will say, oh, my father did this, I'm not going to be a father like that, I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to be doing that. Some mothers do the same. My mother did this, I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be better parent to my child. But sometimes the circumstances aren't the same. Sometimes the internal structure of the individual isn't the same. Sometimes we don't all have the same sense of resilience. We don't have the same sense of confidence. We don't have the same tenacity. We're all different, and we all operate differently. Some of us are defeated. Some of us, because of our past, we do not want to impose. We do not want to get in people's way. Or we're afraid. And sometimes, especially with black men, if they try to see their children, they can be labelled for harassment, they can be stalkers. Next thing you know, they've got a prison record. It's not easy. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying this to justify those fathers who are not instrumental in their child's life when they could be. I'm talking about those who want to, but for whatever reason, they're unable to. So I think that is all I wanted to say, really. Yeah. Bye-bye.